Regardless of sex, there are two main things that determine your beauty in the modern world: your body and your face. No shit, Sherlock. But what do we mean by men's beauty? Because, of course, for women, having the perfect physique, the perfect body is probably just being as skinny as possible. And having the perfect face is a combination of so many things I will never be able to understand. But for men, it is extremely different. As a skinny guy that has like the minimal amount of muscle necessary in order to be able to call themselves kind of athletic, it pains me to say that the modern beauty standard is being as jacked as possible, just pure muscle, as shredded. I don't know. I don't know what's the difference, but whatever. And it doesn't matter how many steroids you need to take, and a little bit less annoying, how many hours of pain you need to put yourself through. But there is also another group of men that is considered beautiful because of a completely different reason. They can be skinny, they can be fat, and as long as they have like decent genetics, facial genetics, whatever, they are going to be considered physically attractive because of the lack of disgusting pimples on their face. So as a man, which is more important and which should you prioritize? Well, according to a small poll that I set up a week ago, the results are kind of unbalanced, with physique being way ahead of an acne-controlled face. But I'm sure that if you're anything like me, you'll also acknowledge that having a face full of acne also makes you, or at least makes you feel 10 times less attractive when compared to a person that has beautiful, intact, pearly skin. So, as someone who very clearly deals with both of these issues, I'm going to give you my opinion and also how to combat both of these things, how to keep them under control. I'll touch upon physique first because that seems to be the bigger problem, the bigger issue, the bigger insecurity. And as you can see, I'm not an especially jacked individual. If I'm not flexing, my arms look pretty... I just flexed. If I'm not flexing, my arms look pretty much like twigs. And that's to say that even if you're not in complete accord... Okay, my legs look kind of good though, but whatever. That's to say that even if you're not in complete accordance with like the modern male beauty standard, which is getting like as much visible muscle as possible, as much strength, as much whatever, that doesn't mean that you cannot be content and happy with the body that you inhabit. I have D-tier muscles and strength at best, and of course I still want to get better, but as long as I'm not like obese, and that makes me completely repulsive to my loved ones, to myself, to girls, etc., I'm still happy with like the body I live in. My main two forms of exercise are for legs cardio, which means just like running in the park, and calisthenics, which in Greek literally means beauty and strength and consists in like basic pull and push movements like push-ups, pull-ups, dips, etc., and also more advanced movements like handstands and L-sits, which is basically just making an L with your body. And the thing that I'm currently trying, a muscle up, and looking like a proper skinny bastard whilst doing it. I've recently started following a routine that has been kind of pushed and promoted by Ian Barseghal, like he says it, the Russian athlete, a calisthenics athlete, and a proper force of nature. And in one of his most recent videos about how to like start working out, he describes a pretty simple program, which basically looks like first day pull, second day push, third day legs, and fourth day rest, and repeat that cycle. But for me personally, whenever I go to train calisthenics, it's a lot more comfortable to do both push and pull at like the same time. And for legs, I just run like a madman. So for me, it looks a lot more like one day calisthenics, second day calisthenics, third day run, and fourth day rest, and repeat. That is when I'm actually being consistent. And that's basically all that keeps me in relative shape. Make sure you don't get to like a point with your exercise where you're kind of incentivized to use steroids, because that will most likely in fact, definitely lead to an early grave, and for lack of a better transition, will also cause acne, the bane of my existence. And I pulled out my red attire in order to look like one of the fat goddamn pimples on my face. I started getting some pretty nasty acne at like the age of 11, which is probably solely due to my genetics because both of my parents had acne growing up. So in a sense, I was doomed from the start. But that doesn't mean I was not able to fight against it when it finally came, because I was taken to a dermatologist who gave me a couple of face creams that basically just dried everything up. And they worked like a charm, honestly. Until they didn't. So a couple of months ago, around like Christmas time, I was left with a face full of pus and no idea what I could possibly do. So I was taken again to the dermatologist and put on Accutane, which is slowly but surely showing some effects. So I'm not completely doomed. And even though it lost the vote by a significant amount, I still hope that the way I talked about my acne still illustrates how much it can play with you mentally. So remember, it's probably not your fault if you're a teenager. It's probably something just strictly to do with hormones. Of course, if you're eating extremely poorly, if you're sleeping 2 hours every single night, if you don't exercise, maybe, yeah, you have nothing to complain about because you have done nothing to make it better. If you're not on like Accutane or putting some creams, if you haven't gone to a dermatologist, yeah, you should probably do that because this is never going to go away unless you do something about it. So, but most of the time you can't. Because it does in fact make you feel like a cave monster. It makes you feel like a repugnant monster, bro. Like, nobody can deny that. But as like the vast majority of physical defects, people will not look at it and think about it at the same time for more than 10 seconds at a time. So, if you're struggling with acne, go to a dermatologist and just be patient with the acne. And from a young age, no matter your age, start implementing physical activity into your life and building your dream body. It's a pretty cool hobby. I'll see you later.